Hello, my fellow awakening ones. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. I just want to talk about how people feel about their country, and for me specifically, if you're an American, how you see where you live. I think it's a very important thing, just like how we see anything, that if you if you don't like the government where you live, you can still love the country. To me, I know there's a lot of things are the government. Hesitate to say our, 'cause it doesn't really feel like our, does it? Whatever side you're on, I think we can all agree on that for the most part. But yeah, just because the government engages in international conflicts or has all sorts of corruption and theft and fraud and uh, increasingly dictatorial measures and acts, it doesn't mean you have to hate the country. you know I don't just well, to me it's very important to have appreciation for everything you have, and yeah, and including where you live. And for all her problems, this I still think this is the greatest country on earth. That's why people still want to immigrate here, because there's a spirit of confidence and innovation and just a can-do attitude and freedom. And it's amazing to me how many people who've grown up here and accustomed to this take it for granted, and are even threatened by those who would like to have more freedom, because we know that the government doesn't grant us freedom, God does. And no human is allowed inherently to rule over another, but by consent, by that person's consent. And anyways, yeah, at this time, we can either go deeper into division and fear and duality and isolation, or we can come together and focus on the similarities and not the differences so much. And because at the end of the day, I think we all want the same basic things, right? We all want to be able to live and work and provide for ourselves and our family, and speak our minds freely and be our authentic selves and share our gifts freely without interference and energy parasitism from the state. And that transcends, well, it seems to be more on the right, people having that attitude, but people on the left want that too. They just seem to have, well, those who haven't awakened more seem to have this distortion to think that the government and companies and the medical system, academia, whatever, are somehow responsible for their freedom, or are in charge of their freedom, and in charge of, I don't know, maintaining everything without their say, actually, or input, or creative input. But yeah, I just like, one thing that bothers me is, like, I know again, for all our problems and whatever people generally here think about the current chief executive of the country, this is still a beautiful country. It's beautiful in nature, it's beautiful in people, it's beautiful in spirit, and all sorts of things. And to me, it's like, you can raise the flag. Like, patriotism and nationalism are not anathema to peace. In fact, I believe they're essential for peace, right? It's like if you don't have pride in the highway and love for where you live, and a sense of agency and ownership, and again in a highway, then you're just at the whim of the media and whatever talking heads you give your power to daily. And I get it's deep. We all get that if we live in the city, uh, kind of anywhere in the world at this point. Um, we were programmed to behave like that, think like that, but now we don't have to think like that. I believe we can remember, if we choose to, that we're free to be ourselves, and our rights don't come from the Constitution or any other written document by people long ago. Our rights, as intelligent and wise though they may have been, which I could go into the founding fathers, they all had their flaws. They weren't necessarily as great as they've been claimed to be. But yeah, just even if the country is in a war that most of us don't agree with, you can still raise the flag freely. You can still take pride in your country freely, because if you don't have that, well, what's the alternative, right? Then it's just maybe you're complaining and more about that, and then you can't be friends, or you can't be civil with other people like me who do love our country, and literally I would die for this country. I don't want to. I certainly, but by the time I was 16, I knew I didn't want to go into the army again in this life and die for an insane and corrupt war, unjust war then, with the Iraq war coming on and Afghanistan war already underway. But I would die for what this country stands for if I felt guided to. At this point, I'd rather live, but push came to shove, I would gladly give my life so that other people could have freedom for real here, if I found it to be legitimate in my heart and soul, the cause. And yeah, and just on a soul level, I have a strong affinity for this country, because I'm aware now that I have lived multiple lives in time as an American. And going back to the colonies, I was a couple of different people in that period as well, not just English, other peoples, including one enslaved person. I think in New Orleans, around that area specifically. But yeah, just like, to me, in this time, we're kind of like replaying the energy. Well, not kind of, we are replaying the energy of a lot of eras, and in this country, and then the spirit of the energy of the revolution, right? Only this time it isn't just America, it's global. It's all over the world, because it's the same structures, right? Most people's governments don't really care wherever you live, with maybe a couple of exceptions. But for the most part, they either don't care really about providing for the people and serving the people, or they do, but because of the way the system is, their hands are tied, and they can only do so much to actually help the people, because there's so many dark, self-serving people in place and behind the scenes that basically own it above the electoral system, which is rigged, at least to my knowledge, in basically every country. I know some people struggle to grok that, but that's just the truth. It's very simple, especially with computer, the ability to hack and mail in ballots, and it's like there's once you go into that, there's so much evidence, and not just in America and at the state level, all over the world, these Dominion voting systems that are basically easily controllable by the people that design them, or people who buy them can be easily taught how to control and manipulate the vote. And yeah, just yeah, and this time we can choose to go into our little tribes more, or we can be in our tribes, but then maybe interact with people from other tribes, right? People that are conservative or rich and you're poor, or, well, I don't want to put quotes for those things, but you know, like we're all just people at the end of the day, right? Whatever our status, right? Like, you know, I'm wearing the clothes I'm wearing, um, but I'm no different fundamentally than anybody else. You know, it's how, like, sometimes I see, like, police officers, or just people that are various sort of agents for the Matrix, as I say. It's like they're still naked underneath their costumes, right? This is my costume today, and that's their costume, as long as they're working, you know, in some capacity for the government. But and then our bodies are like costumes to me as well, in a sense. They're like skin suits or soul suits, is how I see them. And but yeah, I just wanted to share that, and hopefully I inspire anybody that's lost faith in the spirit of this country. You know, just because the government is screwed up, and you don't agree with everybody around you on an ideological level, politically, or even spiritually, doesn't mean that you have to hate the country where you live, and you can't be kind or polite, at least, to those that you disagree with, especially that you live and interact with, whom you live and interact every day. You know, civility, it may seem like an antiquated thing and difficult to achieve, but it is timeless, and it is essential if we are to move forward as a country and a species. You don't have to like everybody, but you do have to be, well, ideally one is polite and civil, until someone gives them legitimate reason not to be, which is a whole other conversation, and many people get confused about that. That just because somebody disagrees with you in politics, it's somehow violating or threatening your own personal safety. It doesn't at all, but by your belief that it does. But this is a free will planet, and as much as the powers that were, they still are, but powers that are and soon to be were, just because they demand that everyone shares their insane, inverted ideology, and stays in conflict with their neighbor and other people of other nations, other faiths that don't think like they do, or completely, or a majority. It doesn't mean that you you don't have to, you keep doing that. Focus on the similarities, as they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, not the differences. And I know, in my experience, the more I do that, the more I find similarities reflected back to me. And yeah, and then just, I encourage you, stop caring, stop seeing things in sides. If you actually want these wars to stop, start at home. Stop warring with your neighbor. Stop warring with your family because they have different preferences about anything, especially minutia, but even the big stuff, right? Everyone's allowed to believe whatever they want, and they do. And you know what's great about that statement? Whatever side you're on, no one can argue with it because it's true. Yes, I know truth is it's kind of become a relative or highly subjective term here on Earth, but it does have a frequency, right? 1 + 1 = 2, in all universes, in all countries, in all times, and it always will. No matter how often the state tells you to think that it equals three, or that freedom is slavery and ignorance is awareness, and on and on and on. And sorrow is joy, and control is freedom, and all these nonsensical, distorted ideas that they promote ad nauseum. Was according to their logic, a lie repeated often enough eventually becomes the truth. No, it doesn't. It just becomes an oft-repeated lie. That's it. So, hope you got something out of this, and make a great day, and make a great life. Whatever time you have left in this go around.